Bend a city's rare shared celebration around one man's appetite for attention when the public mood is already flashing red in every public metric. If you are a New Yorker, the impact was immediate. Your street was closed. Your watch party was canceled. Your evening was reorganized around security requirements for a guest the crowd had not invited. The disruption was not a metaphor. It was real logistics on a real night that a real city had been waiting years to experience. If you are watching from outside New York, the story still matters. When a president's approval sits at 36% nationally, with consumer sentiment at historic lows, and 3-to-1 disapproval on the economy, the decisions flowing from that reality affect everyone. Governance under that pressure tends to substitute spectacle for results. And spectacle has costs in logistics, public trust, and the signal it sends about what a leader believes his job is. Americans are paying more for groceries, carrying medical debt, watching gas prices move, watching foreign conflicts. And the presidential response in this moment was to close a city block and cancel a watch party so one man could be photographed. Once a governing approach prioritizes the entrance over the outcome, once the gap between performance and policy becomes visible, no amount of spectacle closes it. Once working-class voters in your home state are 36 points underwater, a courtside seat does not move that number. Once the emergency exit from public trust has been used, the door does not lock again because cameras move on. Now let's map where this goes. In the first scenario, the political environment forces a quiet correction. Advisors, Republican allies, and internal numbers push the White House toward lower-profile events. The spectacle frequency drops. The Knicks finish their run, the blame cycle plays out, and the city moves on. Game 3 becomes a data point rather than a symbol. But the underlying 30-point crater in New York does not fill in because a president attends fewer games. The structural damage to working-class support remains after the noise settles. In the second scenario, this moment becomes part of a documented pattern. The image of a deeply unpopular president shutting down a working-class watch party to attend a finals game gets cited in future conversations about the gap between his constituency and his behavior. The pattern, skipping family, attending spectacle, prioritizing cameras over people, accumulates into a coherent narrative. One bad optics night is recoverable. A pattern of choosing visibility over governance compounds. In the third scenario, Trump doubles down. The booing gets reframed as a media ambush. The watch party cancellation disappears from the official story. Each subsequent high-profile appearance gets used to assert popularity the polling contradicts. The gap between the projected image and lived conditions keeps widening. Consumer sentiment, already at a recorded low, does not recover. The approval numbers do not stabilize. Eventually, the distance between entrance song and lived reality becomes impossible to paper over. Not in New York, not nationally, and not where decisions affect people. This is the outcome discussed carefully in public and planned for in private. The relationship between Trump and New York was already broken before he walked into Madison Square Garden. The polling made it measurable. The watch party cancellation made it personal. The booing made it visible on a global broadcast. Even if the political climate shifts tomorrow, New York has demonstrated, on one of its most emotional nights in a generation, exactly where it stands. Once dependence on spectacle replaces governance, spectacle stops covering for the absence. Once the public registers the gap between performance and policy, no appearance closes it. Once trust becomes a liability in a room, walking into that room does not restore it. Once alternatives exist, in this case, the simple alternative of a president staying home and letting the city have its moment, those alternatives stop feeling optional. They feel obvious. Trump did not build the garden. He did not create the 27-year drought. He did not earn the crowd. But he understood, or believed he understood, how to use the moment. The city disagreed. And the city had the numbers, the volume, and the history to back it up. So here are the questions worth sitting with. Did Trump weaken himself by showing up? Or was the structural damage already done before he entered the building? Is the instinct to reach for spectacle a miscalculation or a strategy operating on logic that polling cannot capture? And who is losing leverage here? The president who forced his way into the room, or the city that made certain he knew how it felt about the intrusion? Put your answer in the comments. I read every single one. Subscribe now, because the next chapters, the Knicks' potential championship run, the midterm approval trajectory, and whether spectacle can absorb a 36-point deficit, are coming fast. This story is not slowing down. This content is commentary and analysis for informational purposes only. It does not constitute financial, legal, or geopolitical advice. Consult qualified experts before making decisions based on anything discussed here.